Love and Blessings, the Autobiography of Guru Nitya, Chaitanya, Yati. Edited by Peter Oppenheimer. The imperfect will become perfect. Danger, good luck, the inauspicious, auspicious, by association with holy men. For those who have bathed in the Ganges of fellowship with such realized souls, religious oblations, sacrifice, penance, alms-giving, bathing in sacred rivers, are all unnecessary. Seek therefore by all means the company of the good and wise, which is a boat to carry one across the ocean of birth and death. The Yoga Vasishta. Acknowledgements. Gratefulness is said to be the heart of prayer. It is in this sense that I wish to offer prayerful acknowledgements of the following people, without whom this autobiography in its present form would never have seen the light of day. Naturally, our first and fondest thanks must be offered to the storyteller himself. The writings and spoken words enshrined herein represent 30 years of the generous sharing of his history, understanding, and essence with us. His conclusions were never presented as the final word, but rather as offerings for our sincere consideration. I salute him with the befitting words penned by poet and lyricist Robert Hunter. After remarking that in the best of tales, we are left to decide for ourselves who is foolish and who is wise, he proclaims, "Storyteller makes no choice. Soon he will not hear his voice. His job is to shed light and not to master." Many an autobiography is presented as told to some writer, interviewer, secretary, editor. As is typical of the open and public nature of Guru Nitya's life, his autobiography has 50 as told tos. A debt of gratitude and appreciation is due to all the people from around the world who submitted for inclusion in this book letters written to them by the Guru. In so doing, they were magnanimously and courageously submitting a very intimate part of themselves also for public exposure and scrutiny. Their names appear in the text of Part 3 and are listed together in the appendix. For the past 2 years, my trustworthy partner in the final editing process has been my friend and spiritual sister, Deborah Buchanan. Whether flying through vast reaches of actual space to bring photos from Guru Nitya's personal archives back from India, or in another instance, flying down to California to conference in person, or sending messages with corrections, suggestions, and consolations through the vaporous ether of cyberspace, Debbie has been a steadfast source of wisdom, encouragement, and support. Her thorough attention and care have spared the reader many a headache and the publishers much embarrassment. Certain subsections of this volume are the result of the contributions of a number of other friends and supporters of the Guru. The initial photo layout used as the basis for the final presentation was ably submitted by Andy Larkin, with his usual highly attuned sense of aesthetics mixed with a dash of playfulness and irony. The wonderful Sanskrit and Malayalam glossary that appears in the back and which was ably typed out by our Arun Bose is the result of the serious consideration and dedication effort of Swami Muni Narayana Prasad, present Guru and head of the Narayana Gurukula, and both Swami Bodhitirtha and Swami Tyagishwaran, two other luminaries in the Gurukula firmament. Through word, deed, and example, all three of these Swamis provided me with more direction and strength than they probably imagine. Swami Prasad in particular is to be extolled for the humility with which he set aside his own pressing writing projects to help shepherd this one by his predecessor to a satisfactory conclusion. For the tone, quotes, and incidents narrated in the epilogue, I am indebted to Shaukat and Swami Tyagi, who were constantly by the Guru's side during his final days. Gita, my long-time friend and even longer-time devotee of Guru Nitya, contributed an English translation of a Malayalam report which was used for reference in writing the epilogue. In addition to submitting copies of their own letters, Shraddha Durand and Nancy Yielding provided a few of Guru Nitya's dictations and supplementary journals, parts of which have found their way into the present text. Peter Moras has contributed to the publication of this autobiography in a number of ways, not least nor most of which was the timely and big-hearted donation of the particular type of computer required to most efficiently transcribe the many hundreds of excerpts of Guru's letters. Suresh Babu has once again been a valuable source of consultation and advice, as he has on many of Guru Nitya's previous publication projects. I personally need to thank my friend and so-called boss, Dave Court, for not only allowing but strongly encouraging me to take a 6-month leave of absence from my job teaching to complete the editorial and publication process of this book. In his work, Dave embodies the ancient wisdom of Lao Tzu. To rule truly is to serve. My good buddy and techno-wizard Jim Clark selflessly donated countless hours of time scanning photos for the book, as well as researching computer hardware and software, and patiently teaching me how to operate the same. During my 15 years of working on this book, a repeated source of goodwill, inspiration, amusement, and solace has been Guru Sharan Jyoti. During the final months of focused editing here in India, my most divine hosts and benefactors have been the ever-loving Kumarans of Chennai, Madras, and the young men of the Narayana Gurukula in Varkala, who have been remarkably attentive to my needs, comforts, and conveniences, while at the same time leaving me well alone to concentrate on the project. Such love is at once humbling and ennobling. In particular, I must acknowledge Shashi, Sudesh, Girish, Salim, Arun, and Shabu. Next to last, I must express my admiration and indebtedness to our graphic designer, S. Radhakrishnan of Creative Minds. His artistic vision and talent are surpassed only by his kind disposition and patience. Finally, just as a parent needs a child to establish his or her parenthood, and a teacher becomes such only when in relation with a student, it must be acknowledged that it is only you, the reader, who can transform this tome from a heap of paper pulp, sullied with ink stains, into a dynamic work of art capable of both entertainment and enlightenment. And for this, you too are to be commended. Editor's Introduction. Each and every human life is ultimately and equally precious. As the Chinese Taoists pointed out many centuries ago, there is a hidden danger that in the process of appreciating and praising some individuals as high, the rest get implicitly depreciated as low. Yet occasionally a very rare person comes along who lights a lamp of wisdom within all whom he or she touches, and acts as a mirror revealing the truth, beauty, and goodness that dwells in the heart of each. Such a one does not make the rest of us pale in comparison, but on the contrary, through word and example, both exalts us and exhorts us to stand taller and each allow our own light to shine brightly. Clearly, Nitya Chaitanya Yati was one such. Introducing Guru Nitya Chaitanya Yati and his autobiography is a daunting task. The very same words that to those who did not know him might sound exaggerated or far-fetched are bound to fall flat as a far cry from what he was to those who did know him. A guru such as Nitya Chaitanya Yati is many things to many people. To the worshipful, he is a conduit to the divine. To a seeker, he is a mirror of the wisdom residing at the core of the seeker's own heart. To those seeking companionship, he can be a playmate, friend, and lover. To those parched and weary from the feverishness of daily life, he is a cooling and energizing elixir of ever-ready refreshment and eternal renewal. To those lost in the confusion and ambivalence of a dark, uncertain path, he is a beacon of illumination and guidance. In fact, to many who were blessed to know him intimately, Guru Nitya was all of the above and more. How his life unfolded to shape his particular personality, value vision, and chosen path, and how he played out the above roles among numerous others is the revelatory story presented in the pages that follow. Through his words, and even more so through his example, Guru Nitya taught us many things, such as there is a deep ocean of blissfulness and peace ever accessible just below the agitating ripples and tumultuous waves rising and falling at the surface of our consciousness, such as in acknowledging and honoring others, our own self shines forth at its radiant best, such as that nature abhors a vacuum, and thus it is often through divestiture and emptiness that great bounty and abundance can arise, such as that one who remains the same in praise and blame, who neither hankers for what is absent, nor rejects what is present, who neither disturbs the peace of the world, nor allows one peace to be disturbed by the world, is indeed the one who attains to supreme happiness and well-being. Such as, if there is a God, it is that very spirit which animates our bodies, illumines our minds, and courses through our veins, while that self-same spirit resides at the core of all, whatever and whomever we see around us, such as if, on the other hand, this wondrously vast, complex, interdependent, and interconnected body of ours and nature around us are indeed the result of mere chance, then that chance itself is worthy of the same worship offered by others to God, such as that heaven and hell are to a great extent our own creation, and it is not so much the stimulus that determines the response, but rather through conditioning, selectivity, intention, and degree of clarity, it is our inner state that determines the interpretation given to the stimulus. When written down like this, these lessons can appear heavy and ponderous, but when lived and modeled in the flesh and blood situations of daily life, as depicted in this autobiography, these same lessons take on a levity and clarity that is undeniable. Although he had the creativity and charisma that seemed to foretell both, Guru Nitya was motivated by neither fame nor fortune. Once, when Nitya was teaching in the United States, a successful public relations expert became very enchanted with both his personality and teaching. The man promised the Guru that, given permission, he could have Nitya's picture on the cover of Time magazine within 1 year. Without a moment's hesitation, Nitya emphatically declined. When asked why, he simply quoted the Sufi mystic Jalaluddin Rumi, "Poverty is my pride, and obscurity is my refuge." This humility was no facade. During my days living and traveling with Guru intensively for 5 years, and then off and on for another 25 years, as much as he was adored and in many cases even worshipped by others, here and there would crop up some people who would berate him and sometimes accuse him of the most vile intentions and heinous misdeeds. I was amazed at how he would receive such abuse with equanimity and grace and without a trace of defensiveness. When asked about this, he revealed his secret, that whenever someone would harshly criticize him or judge him as unworthy for one reason or another, his habit was to repeat to himself, "Oh, they don't even know the half of it. They have no idea of the many times I have faltered, been foolish, or utterly failed in upholding my highest values, and through countless acts of commission or omission have made a mess of things. Oh, if they only knew what more they could say." In other areas of his life also he exhibited what by conventional norms could be referred to as reverse psychology. Such was the case in his approach to the accumulation and distribution of money. Once in Portland, Oregon, I was trying to save him some money by doing some comparison shopping for a typewriter he needed to purchase. He stopped me with the explanation, "I have an economic consideration most people don't contemplate. If I don't spend this money this week in Portland, then the money that may be coming to me next week in San Francisco won't come." He further explained that he saw the flow of money as being like water through a pipe. If the tap is closed down, restraining the outflow at one end, then no new water will flow in and through the pipe from the other end. Conversely, so long as water is flowing out, fresh water will continuously flow in. In practice, he extended this theory to the giving of his time and energy in the same manner as of his rupees and dollars. Most of the hundreds, if not thousands of people who knew him well would have several such illuminating anecdotes and stories to tell. In fact, a wonderful biographical picture could be drawn through the collection of such personal stories. But the beauty of the present volume is that it is an autobiography, that is, it is told entirely in the Guru's own words. The book is divided into 3 distinct sections. The first, Recollections and Reflections, 1924 to 1971, consists of stories of the first 47 years of his life, dictated over a 12-year period. From 1985 to 1997, whenever I was blessed and able to stay with him, he carved time out of his mind-bogglingly busy schedule of teaching, writing, speaking, sketching, and receiving visitors in order to reweave the tapestry of fascinating events, relations, and responses that contributed to the development of his character, value vision, lifestyle, and perspective. As it took us those 12 years to work our way from 1924 only up to 1971, it became obvious that given the limitations of health and the time left for him, and the demands of his several other projects, we would not be able to complete the story in that manner. It was then I hit upon the idea of recounting the rest of the tale through excerpts of the letters he had been ceaselessly writing to many students and friends around the world over time. From being both scribe and recipient of many such letters over the years, I knew them to be typically so poetic and poignant that people tend to save them. He liked the idea greatly because, as he put it, in this way, everyone else's story, their loves and losses, dreams and triumphs, frustrations and woes, quests and courage, would also become an integral part of his story. Accordingly, we jointly sent out the following letter, to most of his English-speaking correspondents around the globe. Narayana Gurukula, Fernhill, July 26, 1997. Dear friends of Guru, greetings from the Fernhill Gurukula, where it is cold, damp, and drab outside, but inside it is warm, peaceful, and radiant. In spite of intermittent weakness, Guru Nitya remains tirelessly active, giving 2 classes each day, one on the Taittiriya Upanishad and the other on world education, answering mail, writing articles and books in both English and Malayalam, greeting and counseling all who approach him, and developing a World Education Institute, which is to be inaugurated here in Ooty in February 1998 as a part of the World Citizens Foundation. You may be aware that one of his very exciting English book projects is the creation of his autobiography. I have been most fortunate to be assigned the role of chief editor for this book. Over the past 12 years, whenever I have been with Guru, he has been dictating to me his life story, which by now has grown to over 300 pages, having come up only to about 1972. On my current visit to India, Guru has me on a treasure hunt, searching through old files, journals, letters and articles, gathering, sorting, excerpting, editing, and typing materials to be included in his autobiography. Given the constraints of time and health, and the demands of a number of other pressing projects, we have decided that the best way to reconstruct the most recent 25 years, from 1972 to 1997, in Guru's own words, will be to collect excerpts and edit chronologically the letters he has been writing to us all along, detailing his travel experiences, activities, concerns, theories, discoveries, projects, thoughts, perceptions, teachings, and guidance. As a result, he has asked me to draft this letter, requesting if you would please photocopy and send any correspondence from him during the past 25 years, which you have kept and would be willing to share and contribute to his autobiography project. If there are sections which you prefer not to be included, simply indicate that on the submissions themselves. Guru did say, though, that one big benefit of this approach is the way in which it will make each of our stories also a part of his story. Thanking you in advance and with Guru's grace, Peter Oppenheimer along with Guru Nitya. In the months that followed, I received copies of over 1,000 letters from approximately 50 different people in 8 different countries, written over a 30-year period. Part 3 of this autobiography thus consists of a chronological presentation of selections from approximately 600 of those letters. Part 2 is a relatively brief transitional section consisting of Guru Nitya's Portland Gurukula diary. This diary marks 2 transitions. One is from the first 46 years of the Guru's life, which were primarily spent in and concerned with India, and the next 29 years of his life, in which he traveled and taught extensively in the West as well as the East, and during which time his perspective broadened accordingly. The second transition, marked by the diary of the second section of the autobiography, is from the past tense recollections of the first section to the third section's letters, which of course were written with the living immediacy of the present tense. This present or presence is also the subject or goal to which his words direct us, that is, to awaken to the wondrous richness of the here and now as it unfolds within and around us each moment. In reading the letters, it should be remembered that these are excerpts and in most cases not the entire letter. Thus I beg the Guru's forgiveness and the reader's indulgence in recognizing that any apparent abruptness, truncation, or non-sequituriousness is due to the need to economize time and space and not due to any shortcoming on the part of the letter's author. Most letters began with an acknowledgement and appreciation of a recent letter received from the addressee, again to save space and to contribute to an ongoing flow. In almost all cases, these acknowledgements were omitted and can be considered universally implied. A few words on the title. It should be acknowledged that this volume's title has come from the editor and not the author. During the long tenure of its creation, the book was referred to only as an autobiography. Love and Blessings is an appropriate title for the autobiography on 3 counts. Firstly, this is how Nitya himself would very often sign his letters, hundreds of which appear herein. Secondly, those of us who were fortunate to know him experienced and continue to experience him as the love and blessings he showered upon us in abundance. And thirdly, in characterizing his own experience of life, he was very fond of remarking that love and blessings constituted the very atmosphere he breathed in daily as the fountain source of his own existence. Although chronologically the letters come only after the experiences narrated in the first 2 sections, the book need not be read in that order. I know in my own case it was only after encountering the fresh, rich flow of wisdom applied to the real-life problems, concerns, and challenges of my contemporaries that I personally became interested to know about what were the life experiences and philosophical foundations that formed the basis of such insight and compassion. Therefore, particularly in the case of a reader unfamiliar with the Guru, it may be a better introduction to read some or all of the letters first. This is by no means meant to dissuade anyone from reading the book from start to finish. It is only a partial oversimplification to suggest that Part 1 details the roots, trunk, and several branches of Guru Nitya's life, while the letters present more branches as well as the flowering and fruition of that same life. Within these pages, one will find fresh perspectives and helpful insights on such diverse and poignant subjects as motherhood, romantic intimacy and attachment, economics and right livelihood, that is, earning, baking, eating, appreciating, and sharing one's daily bread, disease and mortality, loss and grief, social protest, sexual repression, suppression, expression, and sublimation, spirituality east and west, ancient and modern, guru-disciple and man-woman dialectics, the obstacles to peace, personalities such as Jesus Christ, the Buddha, Jalaluddin Rumi, Mahatma Gandhi, Carl Jung, and Vincent van Gogh, and the nature and attainment of supreme happiness. No introduction can truly do justice to an entire book, just as no book can encapsulate an entire life. In spite of his loving to write, as evidenced in his publishing over 25 books in English and over 100 books in his native Malayalam, still Guru Nitya had to be begged, cajoled, and frankly pestered into writing his autobiography. This is because to him his life was never all about him. He lived his life for others and dedicated himself to both interpreting and embodying perennial truth, which he also envisioned as the ultimate good and ever-fresh beauty, running like a precious streak or a flowing river through all life. His life and teachings were, in fact, all about us. And if we are to do his autobiography any justice, we will have to approach it as a mirror and a beacon, which can reveal the best in ourselves and inspire us to create a world which is a reflection of the love and blessings that constitute our sustenance, our very substance, and our treasure to be shared. Peter Oppenheimer, Varkala, South India, October 2000. And Preface. What life has taught me. Nitya, Chaitanya, Yati. Life in its entirety is a learning process. I do not think that we ever come to a point where one can confidently say, I have come to finalized wisdom. However, I would like to jot down here a few points of which I have become somewhat sure. This world is not a haphazard and chaotic conglomeration of things. It is evolving or transforming according to definite laws. The innate law that governs everything, from a subatomic particle to a galaxy, and from the simple pulsation of a thought to the amazing historic growth of a civilization, is what I understand as the Word of God, Chidvilasam. Such a belief gives me confidence that my life is also within the grand scheme of the universe, in which my co-playmates are the sun, the moon, and the stars, the wind and waves, and the busy bee going in search of honey from the flowers that bloom in my garden, as well as the countless autonomous selves that give unity to myself. It is this sense of unity that assures me that everything is secure until I run out of my meaningful physical, vital, and social existence in this world. Another thing I learned is that there are countless millions of beings who also have a right to be here. They should also get a chance to express themselves, enjoy the attention of others, and be able to communicate at very many levels. So I should be sympathetic, loving, compassionate, and generous in giving others a chance, even when it appears that it's going to push me out of the scene. It was by sheer blessedness that I have realized that many are living only at a level of physical identity, although more evolved beings identify themselves with the social ego. Only a few are mature enough in their spirit to appreciate that their body, senses, and mind are tools in the eternal process of creation. Only 1 in a million has the realization that he or she is a co-creator who is sharing with God this very precious opportunity of envisioning God's own dream of creation or plan of creation, and consequently it is this insight which makes the world, life, and God the most adorable gift a person can have. Nitya, Chaitanya, Yati.